Dude, it feels like I am always doing what I need to do.
Well, Royce, we all do exactly what we decide to do.
I'm Royce. This is Jean-Paul Holcomb. We are on chapter 13 of The Man in the Mirror, and we are talking about decisions, how to make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually tried to create an algorithm on good decision making one time. It took me down this wild rabbit hole, and the problem is when you first start to create an algorithm, which is just basically a series of if-then statements that get you to an answer. When you first try to create an algorithm, it sounds really simple. Like it's
Right.
easy to make a good decision, but this was in the context of just one concept, which is at work, on the job. How do you make good decisions on the job?
Mm-hmm.
Not even life and everything else and all the relationships and everything else that are involved. And man, it took me down this crazy rabbit trail because you think this all makes sense, but then there's this exception over here that does it, and it just eventually turns into this monster.
Right.
There's no way that you can create enough, if-then statements and rules to always make good decisions.
Right.
And I came to this. I was like, God, how do I teach people to make good decisions? And it goes right back to that Proverbs. This is just my take. I'm not summarizing the book. He goes in a totally different direction, but the whole concept in Proverbs, it appears that they're saying learn wisdom, and then it gives you what appears to be a bunch of if-then statements. But the reality is if you really look closely, the relationship with God is the wisdom.
Mm.
When you can have a conversation with God and He says, "Hey, in this particular situation, look over here and remember this, and keep your eye on this while you make that decision." You go, "Oh man, I would have done that, and I would have got bit."
Yeah.
But only that conversation and that relationship got me there. And I can't teach that except to say,
Right.
press into Jesus.
Right. Yep. He's been saying over and over, those who abide in me will bear much fruit.
Right.
But apart from me, you can do nothing.
Right.
And I'm sitting here these days just going, God, you're right. I can do nothing apart from you.
And I'm not saying I'm a filthy, horrible person. Just like I can't get it right as often as, without Him as I do with Him.
Yeah. I've heard it said that, our flesh is never going to get any better. That just the more we walk in the Spirit, right, we'll see more and more of that wisdom manifest in our lives. But we're never going to have this experience of, the flesh gets it figured out, stops being selfish, learns how to make the right decisions. And as somebody who has, unfortunately, in a lot of my life, defaulted to not making a decision, making that decision instead.
Yeah, that is a decision.
Right. Right. It's still a decision to be made. But, for fear of making the wrong decision, trying to make no decision at all, still being a decision that impacts life positively or negatively, unfortunately, mostly negatively. So I really appreciate the tools that were in this chapter. And this is something I can hand to my kids or to anybody that might have questions about decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read the questions at the end of the chapter real quick, just to kind of see what that spurs on here. But again, guys, decisions, how to make the right choice. Actually, before I read the questions, the one thing that I love in here, he comes at it from a direction of how not to make the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
And he lays out a set of principles based in Scripture, based on the example of Jesus, that I just thought was brilliant. Right? It's a bit kind of a twist the perspective on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But having a set of decisions or a set of principles to look at and go, okay, nope, that automatically cuts off those decisions.
Yeah.
Those would be a wrong decision.
That's one of the best ways to get to the heart of a matter oftentimes is just to say what is unacceptable. And
right.
You're often left with a very small, amount of decisions you even can make at that point.
Yep,
So
exactly. I thought that was awesome, and I'm excited to see what he has in the rest of the chapters. But here's the questions from chapter 13. Number 1, what is your personal batting average on making good decisions on the big issues? Why does he got to get so personal? Number 2, describe one very good decision you've made. What factors in making your decision contributed to its success? Number 3, describe one lousy decision you've made. What caused you to make this decision? What consequences have you had to bear because of it? Would you make a different decision if you had it to do over again? Number 4, men are the sum of the decisions they make. What are some ways in which you have observed other men ruining their lives by the decisions they make? Number 5, read 1 Timothy 6, 6 through 10. Why do you think it's so hard for men to live by God's principles? And number 6, a priority decision is a decision between right and blank. A moral decision is a decision between right and blank. Number 7, what are the 3 principles Jesus applied when tempted to make the wrong decisions? Number 8, every decision is at least a spiritual decision. Agree or disagree. Then discuss why or why not. And number 9, every decision is at least a financial decision. Agree or disagree, and discuss why or why not. Dude, I feel like we could just go on so many of those.
It is worth, even if you don't read any of the other chapters, just get this book and check out this chapter. I mean, we could sit and discuss some of this, but it's so well laid out. The way he talks about different types of decisions and how they work. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in these whole ideas that out of all these decisions, there's only one right one.
Right.
Not the case.
Yeah.
And he lays it out so well. So read the book.
Yeah, the principles are great. I mean, it's just some really good guidelines. For me, it would have helped me get out of the fog of so many situations. And as I'm applying them, I am finding a lot more decision making just that much simpler. And I super appreciate it.
Yeah.
See you guys on the next chapter.